शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् तारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणीश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितं ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षादात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामच्युतव पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ramana. In this Tuesday Atma Vichara from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, Bengaluru, we have been reading Bhagavan's Upadesham from the book Years in the Presence of Ramana, my Master. This is written by Mahakrishna Swami, and we are reading his account of his stay in Ramanashramam. And after meditating on this week's episode, we will, by Bhagavan's grace, we will also practice the Atma Vichara session and follow for 20 minutes. Following that, today I will be continuing to read the accounts from the book Ramana, my Master. And finally, we will have the concluding prayers to Bhagavan. In his account of his stay in Ramanashramam, Mahakrishna Swami in the last week had spoken about his master Ramana. This week he is talking about the daily life at the ashram. He records, in the course of time, man has created many fantasies about the masters and the spiritual path indicated by them. Those who accept a master to be inactive or monotonous, acting in a stereotyped manner, would certainly become disoriented if they knew Bhagavan Sri Ramana. He would never react in the same manner twice. The unexpected was inevitable in him. He frustrated any expectation and went against all possibilities. He appeared to be completely indifferent to what went on in the ashram and paid great attention to some apparently insignificant detail. He adverted the person in charge of the daily tasks when necessary, but silenced those who came to him to complain about or criticize that very person. When some chore was done, He cooperated naturally, giving his orientations. Chore here refers to daily thing which is very difficult to be done. Bhagavan would lend his hand and also will orient that person how to do it little easily. So in this paragraph, Mahakrishna Swamiji talks about how natural was Bhagavan, how natural is the self. The self, it was, if we can say, like, as Kalidasa is very good to speak about Upamana and Upameya, he would say, like, if Dharma were to take a body, it would be like Rama. Similarly, we can say if the self were to appear in a form, it would be like Master, Ramana. So here he goes on to give the account how it would be. It will be, if we expect a master or the self to be inactive or monotonous, in acting in a very stereotyped way, we would be disappointed, because the way the self will respond is something that we will never be able to predict. It will never react to two situations in the same manner. And here again, as sadhakas, when we are practicing our sadhana, and even the sadhana may be as high as the spiritual sadhana, and we might have held on to a particular concept, a particular word like Tattvamasi or something, and we might have experienced a great amount of silence or had some good spiritual experience, holding on to some concept. But we find out in due course that will not yield the same result. Because when we are practicing Atmavichara, when we are moving towards the self, so there is no monotonous, there is no some set manner. So we have to be so natural to everything that is happening. That is how the self is. So here also we see the account of Bhagavan. He says he would never react in the same manner twice. The unexpected was inevitable in him. He frustrated any expectation and went against all probabilities. So many times this body, mind, intellect, which is so attuned to some ideas and concepts, would say, oh, this worked for me last time, so I will try the same thing. And many times Bhagavan makes us fail miserably just to make us free from holding on to the same ideas and concept. So we may find, why is this happening? Last time it worked, but not now. It is that what we have to be truly mukta, free from everything. Therefore, in the path in Bhagavan, we see that what worked last time would not give the same expected result next time. And this may frustrate us, but it is all right in the divine scheme of things, says Mahakrishna Swami here. He appeared to be completely indifferent to what went on in the ashram and paid great attention to some apparently insignificant detail. And to relate to this, Nachu Swami would say that when we set fire to all the unwanted weeds where we are sitting to remove them, we expect it to catch fire one next to another. But suddenly we find that the wind takes the fire to a different plant on the other side and starts the fire in a different direction. So, see, our stickiness in sadhana, Nandakumarji was very beautifully explaining it to my friend Arati during the Tiruvannamalai trip this time. There are so much of sticky factor internally and externally to this intellect. The intellect will hold on to something, or it will say, I don't want to hold on to something, using some logic, some data, some concept that it has registered in it. But which one it has to let go, and it may be trying to let go something in the outside, but master would be the best judge to say whether something inside has to be let go on before we let go something in the outside. So here again we see something similar. He expresses that he appeared to be completely indifferent to what went on in the ashram and paid great attention to some apparently insignificant. We may think it is insignificant, something in the internal, some concept. Bhagavan may think that it is the most important thing that we need to transcend before we can transcend something outside. He adverted the person in charge of the daily tasks when necessary, but silenced those who came to him to complain about or criticize that very person. That means the self expects us to correct ourselves more than we want to correct somebody else, because the self and the person is not two different entities. But when we try to complain or criticize of somebody else, Bhagavan would be very much there to silence us. He would always say, Vanda Velaya Par, see why you have come, attend to the duty, attend to what purpose that you have come. So the self, what does the self expect from the ego? If he asks, it expects it to inquire about its approach every moment and find out who am I. That is what that the ego expects, the self expects, says Mahakrishna Swami here. When some chore was done, he cooperates, naturally giving his orientation. When something routine and monotonous is being done, Bhagavan comes and helps us how it can be done very naturally, with some clarity, with some orientation. So, continuing on his accounts, all that is done in an ashram, all that is done for the master must be done with love, no matter what it is. He who does some tasks, such as sweeping the floor, watering the plants, or helping in a ritual, must execute it remaining free from the anxieties or worries, with a pure heart and full of devotion. Only in this way will the action be right without interference or of the profane ego, and there will be no attachments to the fruit of actions. So Bhagavan here is saying, and Nandakumarji was beautifully explaining this to my friend, that many times we think the hand that worked, the mind that provoked that thought, and the intellect which decided on which approach to take and adopt, all of it, the ego claims that it is all its resources and it is it that making it all happen, often forgetting all of these resources were provided by the divine. But the ego goes on to hold on that it is it. Only later on, that is the way the worldly life goes on. But when we come to the ashram, when we start going to the spiritual side of our journey, then we start to recognize that all must be done in love, because all is given to us in love. No matter what is given to us, whether it means a small job or a big job that is given to us by the divine, ordained by the divine, we should continue to do that job with full of love, recognizing that all the resources to do it has been very well provided by the divine. So we should keep on doing whatever small job or big job, free from any anxiety or any worries about the result. That is real karma yoga, with a pure heart as an offering for the divine scheme of things. Whatever we do in this world, it is very evident that we will never be able to make it very perfect. Whatever job we are given in this world, we may not make it perfect starting tomorrow or after the job is done. It is only a small improvement to a small betterment than what we were doing it yesterday. So it is important to recognize that, and therefore, without any anxieties or worries about the result, we should take it as a blessing that has come to us, and we should execute that job with a pure heart and full of devotion. And that is the only way. Then the ego is not having any expectation. Then it is becomes a Ishvara Arpitam, a natural offering to the Ishvara. And there will be no attachment to the fruits of the action. In these two paragraphs, in the first paragraph, how Bhagavan, the self, would be available to us, how it will guide us, how it is not the same at all times, how it is something that is ever available to us in something when we do routine, and how it orients us is saying. In the second, how we as an individual should act, recognizing that all that is given to us, all the resource that is given to us, whether starting from this body to all the material things in the world, we should look at it as the resources given to us by divine for its own cause, for some betterment in the outside. And it has entrusted with us with that responsibility. So without much of an anxiety or worry, we should simply execute it and offer it back and thank it for that divinity with full love for having given that opportunity. And that is the way, that is the journey from the life to the life of the ashram, to the life of serving or being one with the self, says Mahakrishna Swami in these two beautiful paragraphs. With abundant grace of Bhagavan, with which alone we have come to this most direct path for the next 20 minutes. No matter how many thoughts come, no matter what is the nature of those thoughts, whether it is good, bad, ugly, or spiritual, when we inquire to whom is this, it becomes evident it is for me. Therefore, we should diligently inquire, who am I? What do I really refer to as I? If this thought is for me, who am I that who is having this thought? When we try to trace the source of the I, we find that the self alone is. And with repeated practice, the mind which was outward turned becomes inward turned and starts to abide in that one truth which alone is. And Bhagavan says, with repeated practice, the mind will gain enough strength to remain at the source. When it remains, then all the activities that will be carried out will be automatic divine action. And that is the only purpose of this human life, says Bhagavan. Bhagavan's abundant grace. Let us practice Atma Vichara the next 20 minutes. नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय नमो रमना. Continuing to read from the accounts of Mahakrishna Swami's stay in Ramana Ashramam. He is talking about the daily life at the ashramam. Even though Sri Ramana was an unshakable neutrality and extremely rigorous in respect to the fulfillment of the disciplines and teachings, his presence did not intimidate people, and he never imposed strange or extravagant behavior on the disciples, but gave them examples of simple and natural behavior. This part of the text is highlighted. He lived integrated with reality, peace, and harmony. His manners did not cause constraint, and the recent arrival immediately felt at ease before him. His conversations was full of good humor, and his smile was contagious. So, continuing to explain how the self, Ramana, who is personification of the self, would always be unshakable and neutral. The existence consciousness never goes through any change, and it will be neutral, equal to good thoughts, bad thoughts coming in the mind, or good deeds happening in the world, or bad deeds happening. It is ever neutral to it. And rigorous in respect to the fulfillment of the disciplines and teachings. His presence did not intimidate people, and he never imposed strange or extravagant behavior on the disciples, but gave them examples of simple and natural behavior. So we find that the self is ever present, available as many times it is said to be the witness, but the witness is a wrong association. Though the self is everything, though it also acts as the witness, the self cannot be said to be just the witness. The role of the God is said to be that of witness in everyone. The self is the self of the God itself. It is the self that we are trying to find by the enquiry, who am I? It is the self of the God, the self of us, that one reality which shines in everything. So that truth which we can say, which we have been meditating here, that was manifested as Ramana, we can see that it was neutral, and so it is even in us. It is neutral. Though in its light everything happens, it doesn't come in between to say this thing should happen, this should not happen. Though it will be neutral, and in its presence people will not be intimidated, will not be frightened, even if they are trying to do something very bad. In its presence they may do it, but it will always keep, because it is there, it will always be set an example and show how a natural behavior should be. So even people who end up doing something harm because of the self being like a mirror, they feel very, very disturbed with themselves. until they course correct themselves in a very natural way. And that self, he lived integrated with reality, peace, and harmony, says the author here. The self is nothing but the reality, which alone is, and it is nothing but peaceful because it is undisturbed, untouched by anything that is happening, and it is in harmony, oneness with everything. So we see Bhagavan here. His manners did not cause constraint, and the recent arrival immediately felt at ease before him. However, which way one may find the ego to be enacting, in front of the self, it will be very easy. It will be very simple for us. No constraint will be found. His conversation was full of good humor, and his smile was contagious. Recollecting this, I was trying to have a conversation with Nanda Kumarji that when I see the Ramana School of Blind Children, when they come to RMCL to perform them, since we have a lot of data about how our face should be, what each different smile or reactions of the face means, how we are communicating our subtle things in the mind. Because we have that data, we try to be very serious or very conscious of how our appearance is when we are in the public domain. But when I see these blind children, because they have no visual data of how they appear or how people read when they appear, I see often that they are always smiling. And it shows very clearly that the self is full of joys, full of smile. It is just that the ego, though, blocks that naturality because it has a lot of data about how one should behave in public, how one should conduct oneself. And therefore, that natural smile doesn't come out on our faces. So here it has been very beautifully said that in Bhagavan would be always humorous, will be always smiley, and that smile is very contagious. And even when I see these children, the blind school, we feel so happy. It's like seeing a baby who is always smiling and for no reasons, no apparent reasons. And when we see such one, we also get the smile on us. So it is being said about Bhagavan's presence and the daily life at the ashram. Continuing to read, all in him and in the ashram was clean and in order. Rigid schedules were kept. Watches were rigorously maintained accurate. Calendars were always kept up to date. With this external discipline, one learned self-discipline, which is natural in the state of meditation, and because of this needs no effort. I was just talking to Revati before this, and I said how often I keep forgetting the calendars and the dates. And here it is, because we are so relevant, so much still dependent on the mind and the data. And here it is in Bhagavan, we see that he was so natural. All things would naturally happen. As I was trying to say, that once the mind, the ego is surrendered, in that place, God has taken over, and all things happen according to that. Meister Eckhart says, not the recent Eckhart Tolle, the Meister, the German philosopher. If at all it is said that God can look at the world, he found everything to be perfect in order. So it is that everything was ordered, it was in order, in clean, and accurately maintained and followed in the ashram, says Mahakrishna Swami. And this discipline helps us develop something which is effortless. And we can see that in something that we have been taught from our childhood, like brushing the teeth as soon as we get up. Maybe something very simple thing. Since we kept doing it from our childhood, we find that it is no effort at all. It's just that we get up, we walk to the wash basin or to our washroom, and we take the brush, we put on the paste and wash the teeth and rinse it up. We don't find it as a routine, an effort that we need to do. So it becomes so natural when some discipline is followed. And therefore, these external disciplines bring a lot of internal discipline. And we have heard accounts also that the great singer M.S. Subbulakshmiji would rehearse the songs she would sing when she used to go out to perform. She would rehearse those songs for about 100 or 150 times rigorously. And she was asked, "You are such a senior musician and you are so at ease with singing. Why do you have to rehearse these things at this level?" She would say that it would make, by practicing it, it would take less of the ego's interventions. Things would just naturally come. There would be no intervention of the mind, no intervention of the ego, intellect and all. And that is why the practice is very, very important. The discipline of practice is so important. So here it is shown here in this paragraph that why Bhagavan would insist on practicing some rigid schedules and maintain things, and so that it will be naturally a self-discipline and eventually make it effortless. Simple things which we all know and we probably are also practicing in many areas, but we fail to do the same thing in few areas. Some would be very natural. We would be 100% with it because we have practiced it enough. Some would be very, very unnatural. Some would sound something that we need to put a lot of effort. And in all those areas, what we can see is that we have lacked a discipline of regular practice. And if we simply consciously do that, even in those areas, it would become effortless. So this is something that we can understand by Bhagavan's discipline here or practice here. We'll conclude today's satsang with this last paragraph and then prayers to Bhagavan. Sri Ramana gave preference to all that was simple. He liked to sit on the floor, but people insisted that he use a sofa, and this became his place during the great part of the day. On one occasion, Ramana commented about this. In the first years of my stay here, I sat directly on the floor without a rug or any type of covering on the ground. I had the freedom to do this. The sofa where I currently repose is a slavery. I am not authorized to sit where I like, where I please. Is this not a slavery? We should be free to do what we want. To be served by other people is an obstacle to this freedom. So it is so natural to see. We expect that we are taken care of by people. In this modern society that we are, and especially people like me, work in a company and work in a position like CEO, lot of things are taken care for us. Lot of areas, people will be forthcoming to come and help us in those areas. Often in this modern era, it becomes natural for us to think, oh, they are respecting us, and a lot of that is our freedom. But actually, it is our slavery when those people are not around, and when that is not taken care, and we need to do it ourselves. We find that we are totally out of place. So here Bhagavan is saying that it is so much natural if we were to do all things that we could do ourselves with lot of freedom, and including, wherever we could sit, we could. And often I also find like I need to go clean shaven. I have to wear, a lot of times a very, a professional dress. I can't be casual. And when I was a software engineer working in a company and was just an executive, that time it was so easy, so much easy. Nobody would watch me, so I could go many a times in my casual attire. May not be too casual, but a lot more casual than what I need to today. So many times it is actually loss of freedom, we could say that. So Bhagavan is saying here that what we, in this modern era, which we take that it is a privilege to have, it could be something which could be a loss of freedom. So he is asking us to inquire, asking us to be conscious of it. It's only the self-enquiry. It's only by inquiring what is that I am losing by virtue of this. Lot of clarity would come into our life, and we will recognize where we have become a slave, where we have become we still own our freedom, where we are disciplined, where we are very casual and finding it that we need to put a lot of effort. In all those areas, if we look at how the ashram life went on and how Bhagavan was at ease with all of them, or how the self is in dealing with all of them, in all those places, we can find ourselves an opportunity to correct it by looking at how the self so naturally deals with it day in and day out. So it was a great opportunity to meditate on Bhagavan's daily life at the ashram. We'll conclude today's satsang with prayers to Bhagavan. Apara Satchit Sukavarirashe Yasyormimatram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chinta Vihiram Hrudi Chintayami Chinta Vihiram Hrudi Chintayami.